Yeah, my name is Len Nevin. I'm with eXp Realty. We run a group called Loyalty Home Group. I've personally been in real estate. This is my 20th year. I was actually looking at my notes and everything.
What's your favorite part about what you do?
Not being able to get fired. I mean,
That's your favorite part?
No, I mean, so think about it, right? So I wanted to do real estate. And my grandpa had a real estate company. My uncle was a realtor, worked actually for him.
Gotcha.
My grandpa on the other side was a real estate agent, had his own company. So it's kind of a family business for us. But
did you work with those guys back in Illinois?
No, that's the funny part.
Separate, gotcha.
Completely separate. So I actually went the direction of engineering because I was good at math and I like problem solving. And so I went to engineering school and all that other stuff. And I remember I was working for this company called Eisenman in Crystal Lake, Illinois back in 2001. And obviously 9/11 happened. And I survived like 3 or 4 layoffs with them. And then finally they were like, look, we're just, because the economy just got killed after that.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember showing up to work one day and your
gut was
crunched. And the guy that I never see was at my desk.
Oh,
he's like, hey, you got a minute? I'm like, oh crap.
Here we go.
I'm like, I know where this is going. And I just remember walking out of that meeting going, I never want to get laid off again. And
Sure.
real estate was the answer to that. So does it mean it's been perfect? Does it mean I've been rolling in the dough every minute of it?
Sure.
Of course not. But at the end of the day, I can look in the mirror and go, if I'm not helping enough people reach their goals, then that's my fault. And that's why I'm not having the months that I want to have.
You're controlling your own destiny.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So
outside of that, what do you think the most rewarding part of your job is?
for me personally, it's helping other agents realize that they can make a career out of this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love working with buyers and sellers and I love helping them reach their goals. I just know the struggle and I see the struggle. I mean, we see it on our team. I ran an office for a while. You see these new agents come in and they're gung-ho, they're ready to, conquer the world.
Right.
And you take somebody like Jason who, he got into real estate and 6 months in, he's just like beating his head against the wall going, I feel like I'm doing everything right, but nothing's going right.
Right.
And being able to help him, I mean, he's kicking all sorts of tail in real estate and helping all sorts of people, and helping and seeing that happen actually gives me more happiness than handing over keys.
So you like the coaching aspect more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. What about the coaching aspect really gives you fulfillment?
Like I said, just seeing people,
results.
you don't sign up for real estate without having big goals past the 9 to 5, right?
Right.
And that's the other thing too, is I remember when I was in that engineering job, I knew what my limit was. Like I knew that in order for me to reach a certain point of income, my path was going to be very tough, and it was going to require more schooling, it was going to require more licensing, it was going to require, to get your PE license, then you could cap out at a certain career, and then you got to work your way into like management, then you got to work your way into ownership, and then you probably got to go start your own firm, and then the capital, get that going, and then it's just, with real estate, it was just kind of like, hey, I'm the master of my own destiny type thing.
Right.
And so seeing other people with that same goal and helping them make that happen is the cool part.
So you kind of saw your uncle and someone else go down that path.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I grew up with a lot of my family members, half were like 9 to 5ers and half have their own businesses. And the ones who seem to take more, not saying they're lazy, but they had nicer vacations, they had nicer homes, they had nicer cars. Those were all the self-employed people who ran their own businesses.
You saw it firsthand.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, the 9 to 5 struggle people were, they didn't have that. So I'm like, you have a choice when you're growing up, which model inside your family you want to follow. So I followed that one.
I think one of the biggest things I've seen with Lynn is no matter which side we're talking about, sales, buyers, sellers, agents, he's a problem solver.
Gotcha.
And that goes all the way back. That goes to the technology side of things, building out programs for the agents. I mean, he's just awesome at it. Teaching
Appreciate
the agents, his patience. He's so patient, which he picks me up on that side because that's where I'm a high energy guy.
Don't have the patience.
Why don't you get it yet?
It's good. You have that yin and yang, right? So he's the more, hey, settle down. It's
more calm.
Here's the step we need to take, and and I'm the more let's get it done, you know. So together, it's a good
It's
mesh.
a good dynamic
Yeah.
for sure.
Gotcha.
But you know, with buyers and sellers, I mean, any kind of problem, and Lynn's got a solution because he's been doing it for so long. He's seen it all.
Well, isn't that what our whole industry is really about?
Yep.
Solving problems, right?
Problem
That's
solvers.
it. I mean, you see it all the time on your end.
100%.
So I've introduced myself.
Well,
Now everybody
hold on.
knows who I am.
I
But
got one
nobody
more
knows.
question for you.
Okay, sure.
What is the least favorite part of your job?
The least favorite part of my job,
Or you could either answer least favorite or most challenging.
I would say the most challenging part of our industry and the job just being in real estate as a realtor is just planning for the unknown changes, right? So let's flash back 12 months ago. We were unstoppable. I mean, as an industry
Right.
and as a team. I mean, we'll just add that to the mix. And you don't think that anything can really affect it because you're like, look, I'm hustling, I'm doing my work, I'm doing everything I need to do. And you're like, yeah, no outside influences can change anything the way, you know, with what I'm doing. And then the Fed comes in and start raising rates.
Yep.
And so 6 months worth of people that we had been working with that were getting ready, prepping, you know, taking the steps, remodeling their homes, painting, whatever you want to call it, all of a sudden we're like, yeah, I'm out.
Right.
And you're like, oh wow. So you literally, when the rates went, like once they hit like 6%, I would say 90% of our database basically bounced.
Yeah.
And so we had to start from scratch in some ways. That's the part I hate, but it's also the part I love the most. So it's a total double-edged sword because
ever-changing industry, right?
right. So being able to flip the script with it and going, no, you know, that's a challenge. Great, let's tackle it. Let's make it happen. And right now I would say we're on par with the next 6 months to look like what the first 6 months of 22 looked like, which was phenomenal because we restructured. And we didn't restructure per se, and we just took out our old, you know, dusty toolbox and said, okay, well, these are the tools we got to use now instead of the ones we were
Shift
using
the
before.
mindset.
Yeah,
Really?
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most challenging part of the industry is just staying on top of that and, you know, helping people, clients, buyers, sellers, and then the agents on the team be able to see, you know, what's the old saying, you know, see the forest through the trees type thing.
6 months ahead of it.
Yeah,
That's hard in industry though, because especially this last time, it changed so quick.
very quick.
That's one of the fastest changes I've been a part of.
Yeah, I would agree.
So quick. Well, you want to go, Jason? You want me to?
No, tell us a little bit about what you do and about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Josh Stahl. I'm the branch manager of Homer Financial Group down here in downtown Chandler, right behind these little blinds here. Been in the industry for 18 years. Been up and down. Seen like you guys were just talking about it. Seen a lot of it.
Yeah.
I've lived in the East Valley for forever. Spent a little time in California. Came back because I didn't like it. But yeah, that's my story.
No offense, he still does loans there, right?
Still do loans in California. Licensed in 9 states personally.
9
Which
states.
ones? Can you name them off real quick?
Yep.
Or?
So California, Washington, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Florida, Illinois, Michigan,
Nice.
Colorado. Don't want to forget.
Yeah, don't forget about Colorado.
And you said North Dakota, right?
Not North Dakota yet.
No,
I'm
not
going
North
to get
Dakota.
licensed in North Dakota.
Okay. Okay,
My
cool.
son plays football in North Dakota, so figured I'd get licensed there.
Yeah, might as well make use of your time while you're up there.
Now, if it's one loan a year, more than pays for your license.
Yeah.
You know.
So, I mean, like I said about Lynn, problem solver. I've had you come in before and clean deals up that was just nosedived and crashed and burned from other lenders that buyers brought in.
Well, what was that one? So
Yeah.
Jason's on vacation. Like he sends me this text message, or right as he's getting on the plane, he
Not
goes,
just
yeah.
like around the corner. I was in Jamaica.
Yeah, and he's basically like, look, he's like, once I get on this plane, he's like, I'm in Communicado. He's like, I don't need, you know, it's family vacation with the wife. And, you know, that's probably the other hardest part about this industry, as you know, is
Separation
there's no
from
such
family.
thing. And this is kind of joking around why we were like, yeah, I love the idea of real estate overtime because It's just not a 9 to 5 job, right? It's constant overtime.
24/7.
And so I'm like, how can I help him actually enjoy his vacation? And really, it's more, how can I make sure his wife doesn't hate us while he's gone and saying, okay, this was a good move for him to move from.
Probably too late for that, but
Yeah, but to move from appraisals, yeah, exactly. But to move from appraisals to real estate, it's like, how can he actually take the vacation? And so this deal falls apart. And
Still remember it.
And I remember, like, you know, his relationship with you, and this was the first time I had talked to you, and I just grabbed the file and I sent it over to you, and there was no reason that deal should have fallen apart with the other lender. And
I remember the client was the Chancellor's, and I think Jason's actually helped them now twice or at
Yeah.
least one more time.
Yep.
It really, from what I remember, it really stemmed from an income perspective. You know, I don't want to say anything bad about people on your street, but some loan officers work harder than others,
right.
right? So, and the other piece of our industry is there's some loan officers that have a ton more experience than others, right?
And it shows.
And that's what pays off. Like you were talking about earlier, adapting to change and you know, being able to do that comes down to experience and going through it.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think there was some stuff with the HOA that wasn't
Yep.
going through. And I remember,
Litigation stuff.
yeah, and talking to the other agent, you know, he was obviously like, oh, freaking out because it fell apart like a week before the closing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we were able to push it out only a week and a half,
Yep.
and you were able to still come in and close that
Yeah,
deal.
so we took that deal, took it over, and closed it in 10 days,
Pretty quickly.
which
Yeah.
was awesome.
That was,
They were
Yeah.
super stoked. Everybody wins.
yeah.
Everyone. So I mean, that's the really important part of having a really good loan officer that has experience. They can come in and clean stuff up. Also, one of the other great parts is all the different programs you offer, and I
Yeah.
mean, we look forward to getting into those a little bit more
Yeah, absolutely.
in future episodes. But there's such a wide array of what you can do and different programs that you have for people.
Yeah, you've got to have that now, especially in this last 6-7 months when
Adapt and change,
every deal
right?
is- every
Yeah.
deal counts, right? So yeah, I mean we've got help people with bank statements. Maybe their taxes aren't straight. We've got DSR loans where you don't have any income. You're qualifying off of the rental. That's it. So yeah, we'll get into that in future episodes.
Well, and even like we're working a couple deals right now, and when you're working with a loan officer who has the experience, I mean, we're sitting there racking our brain trying to figure out how to make these deals happen,
Yeah.
and you came up with the solution.
Yeah.
I'm on this, the deal I'm talking about, but you came up with the solution.
Yeah, I was about ready to call it quits on that one,
Yep.
actually. And right before I was going to tell the lady, hey, this isn't going to work out, the idea of her son buying her place popped in my head.
Boom.
So
Now we got 2 deals ready to
deals out
close.
of it, yep.
So, yeah.
Problem solved.
Cool.
Problem solving, yep. I'll talk a little bit about why I love this job, and then we will kick it over to you, Jason.
Okay, cool.
But ultimately, I love this job because there's nothing better than being able to help someone fulfill the American dream. Really,
Yep.
I mean, having someone buy a home, if you've never been through that experience, once you close on it, there's something. I mean, I'm sure there's other things that are rewarding, but it's such a rewarding process and feeling, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think we're raised in America as, hey, owning a piece of land and a home is, you've made it or you've arrived, right? So making someone who in the beginning probably felt like, hey, I have no chance of this, to actually closing the deal with them and they're moved in, and sometimes you can get some return gratitude. Hey,
Yeah.
thank you so much. That is the best feeling.
Yeah, that is the best feeling for sure.
And the other side of that too is kind of like Len said, I do enjoy coaching my LOs too. And
Yeah.
that is also very fulfilling. Seeing them be able to replicate some of the things I'm doing and grow, ultimately make more money for their families. That's also huge.
Yeah.
Well, and ultimately too, I mean, if you have a way that you, like a standard that you like to treat your clients, I can only work with so many people at a time. And so by having other people working with me inside of this environment, treating their clients in the same fashion, I'm sure you feel the same way. It's like,
Absolutely.
I can, alone I have this much impact, but together we have this much impact. And I think that's a bigger reason, probably when I look back on it, why I like the idea of coaching and helping others achieve their goals too, is I know I'm having a larger impact on, because there's a lot of crappy loan officers, there's a lot of crappy real estate agents. I mean, you had one the other day, you couldn't get the agent to call you back after like 2 days, and he's like, I have an offer.
It happens quite a bit, right?
Unfortunately, yeah, but it's like, answer the phone. Like, I have an offer. There's a seller out there who said, you're my agent, not you, obviously, so I'll point this way. I don't want anybody thinking that, I don't need that cut up wrong. Somebody go, hey, look, Jason sucks. But you're my agent. I'm hiring you to help me represent me to sell my home.
Yep.
I work 9 to 5, so I can't do this 24/7. This is your job, so you can do this 24/7. And then they can't even answer the phone and acknowledge that an offer came in.
Yeah,
Like
crazy.
Jason said, though, you'd be surprised how often that happens.
Oh, I'm sure you reach
How
out to
often
people.
that happens. Well, just from the real estate side.
Yeah.
You know, you would think, to your point, that you're representing someone to sell a house, you get an offer, you'd be excited.
Oh, yeah.
You'd jump all over it. I mean, you can speak to that. Not the case.
Yeah, not the case.
I was
Not the
a-
case. I had to literally this particular agent. I put in the offer, and then every time I put in an offer, I follow up with a text message,
Yep.
letting them know, or a call, letting them know that I sent over the offer. Please confirm receipt. I couldn't even get confirmation of receipt. So the next day, I'm emailing again. I'm calling again. This call goes straight to voicemail. Voicemail isn't set up. So it's like, so then you have to get to the point where you have to contact the broker. And then the message I get back from the broker is, we're out of office.
Oh, man.
So it's like, oh, Lord.
It was the 23rd, though. It wasn't like it was Christmas Day. It was the 23rd.
Yeah, it was the 23rd. Yeah.
It's like, come on.
So, but anyways, I mean, yeah, that's just a part of the business, and you learn to get around it. Finally, I got around it, got a hold of them. But, that's
That deal didn't work out anyways.
the deal.
but-
Didn't work out, no.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Okay, so I'm also a real estate agent with eXp Realty, team lead on the Loyalty Home Group. My ride there is a little bit different. I'm in my 3rd year, and I know it doesn't sound like much, but I'm coming up on 24 years as a real estate appraiser, a certified real estate appraiser. I come in with the different aspects. Sales is what I had to learn. Real estate, I feel like I have all of the knowledge there with all the stuff I've had to learn as an appraiser over 23 years. So that's my background, is I'm able to bring something different to the table. Part of the thing, I'm also an investor. I own plenty of properties and rent them out and stuff like that. Remodel them, sell them, all that good stuff. So I also can bring something to the table on that side of things. But my favorite part probably is coaching. Like Lynn said, I love to coach people. I love to help people. I teach appraisal classes to real estate agents as well. Part of the motive behind that is just getting to know more people, getting to help more people, to answer the questions. So I teach those appraisal classes to the real estate agents. And at the end, I'm just trying to say, look, if you ever have any appraisal questions, reach out to me. I'd love to help. I'm not even necessarily looking for business on that side of things. As time goes on, I'm doing less and less appraisals and more sales.
Gotcha.
Just because I'm 23 years in on the appraisal stuff, and the change was refreshing and helping people in a different way rather than getting yelled at by loan officers and real estate agents, right?
Was that the main drive, or what was the main drive behind your switch from, because I know you're still doing appraisals, but to say I want to put more of a focus on the real estate sales side versus appraisals. What was the motivation?
It's funny. So when I added my real estate license, I didn't really have intent.
Really?
I added it because I don't know, I just like to learn. And so, at the same time I added my real estate license, I also added my SRA designation with the Appraisal Institute.
What's that?
So it's a designation just like all, realtors have all these fancy designations. The SRA designation is the top residential designation with the Appraisal Institute. There's only about 1% of us in the country that hold that designation. So it is a prized designation to have, but essentially all it is you've gone above and beyond learning more stuff. And it's intense. It's not easy to get. You have to take, I believe it's like, I can't remember how many hours was. It's a ton of hours to take, but the classes are one thing. You got to pass the test too, just like your state test for real estate license. But then you have to actually go through intense training modules and stuff like that. It's not just pass a test. You have to get to the test to pass the test. So it's pretty intense. And a lot of people start it, don't finish it. A lot of people let it go over time. But it's something that's prized for sure.
Gotcha. So I've known Jason for about 16 years. Amazing appraiser, great with kids and coaching and his realtors. What do you think that from the appraisal side helps you most with real estate? Is there an advantage you think?
Well, I definitely have, and this is just my opinion, obviously, and maybe I'm a little biased because it's, but I definitely have an advantage when it comes to valuing properties. Sure. So helping people on the listing, on the listing side of things. I mean, I can come at it from a perspective of where I think we should list it at. Now, every appraiser is different, so I mean, that's the part of it I have to explain to these people when we're listing it, is based on what I see, this is where I think we should list it. However, an appraiser looks at it with a different scope. Okay, appraisers are looking backwards, right? And all we're doing is representing the lender. On the appraisal side, our job is make sure the lender doesn't overextend on a loan. Right. That's our client, and that's what our job is. On the agent side of it, our representation is to our client, which is going to be the seller or the buyer, right? To make sure they get as much money as they can on the sell side, or they get it for as cheap as they can on the buy side. Right. So it's a different scope. I have to take one hat off to do the other. Right. But I can't let go of the knowledge that I have on the appraisal side when I'm helping someone on the real estate sales side.
Let's say, just to kind of tie that off, when you're in a listing presentation, do you feel like the client respects your opinion more because of that past knowledge? For sure, and a lot of it depends on the client, right? Because all clients are different. Some are data driven, and some are personality driven. Sure. So you try to come to that appointment with the personality, and then you come. I always come with data. Gotcha. And so if you have that kind of seller that is, they want to see it. They don't just want to hear it, they want to see it. Yeah. And you can set it in front of them. This is all the data I pulled. Here's the comps, here's the Crawford report data, here's how I crunch these numbers and what I come up with. So yeah, I do feel like that it helps. And I probably did somewhere between 10 and 15 on the list side last year. And that was, my second year in real estate. So I feel like it's definitely an advantage.
I would agree with that, because I remember when Jason was going on like his first couple listings, he was asking, he's like, well, how do I look at it because we'd crunch numbers and he would have one number and I'm like, no, I think we can go here, and he's like, where are you coming up with that? He's like, and I said, well, this is what I'm seeing. And then it's like
exactly how he said it.
Yeah, pretty close.
Close. Because remember on that Springfield property, it was so like his number was probably about 20,000 lower than where I was at, and then we ended up getting 20,000 over asking price in a different market. Sure. But it appraised
by my buyer.
By your buyer, actually. So it was funny. We argued about the price of the property that we were going to list at, and then he ends up getting a buyer. That's a whole other story for another time. But it was just interesting to have that conversation with him as far as, here, look, this is how real estate agents think about pricing, and this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm looking at. And he goes, okay, I can see where you're coming from. And this will be, I think, another great topic for us to talk about in the future too, is just, how does a real estate agent approach an appraiser from that perspective when you have some of those discrepancies where it isn't black and white? This was an older neighborhood, not as cookie cutter as some of the other ones. Now these new neighborhoods have 5 models, and so it's pretty easy to find a model match inside these neighborhoods. Right. But I would say his expertise as an appraiser has absolutely helped him take listings, because I remember probably within 3 or 4 months of me being licensed in 2003, I remember being at a class, and the person who was instructing it, I remember his name, Jackson, I don't remember his last name, but he was teaching us how to price properties from the eyes of an appraiser. And he's like, because if what counts. That's what counts. Yeah. The buyer, we always joke around.
And that's what we teach the team too, honestly. Yeah. From the appraisal perspective.
You have to, because there's always the old saying, well, the house is only worth what a buyer's willing to pay for it.
Not true. Though.
Not true. The house is only worth what an appraiser is willing to let the buyer pay for it. And so when you're meeting with a seller and they say, look, I want $600,000 for this house, and you're like, look, no appraiser is going to give you more than $575. You've got to be able to have the data to do that. And he's had some tough conversations with some sellers, and he's told me about them, and I'm like, it's a good thing you're an appraiser, because they probably wouldn't have listened to another
I think
agent.
it gives you a credibility.
Yeah,
massive.
credibility. I mean,
100%. That's kind of where I was going at with
Yeah.
that. I think, from a realtor who hasn't been an appraiser for 23 years, they should listen to you more.
yeah.
Oh,
How
absolutely.
did you guys meet?
We actually, it was funny. So when did you join EXP?
December 2020.
Okay, so December 2020,
Okay.
and then I met you like 6 months or 3 months later.
Yeah, it was in February, I believe. Yeah,
So Jason, like I was saying, you were at another company before.
briefly. Yeah.
I'll let you tell the story. It's probably better.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I started with another boutique.
I'm like asking him all these questions, like right?
Yeah, I started with another smaller boutique, which basically specialize in multifamily. And I started there because I was familiar with them, because I bought many multifamily properties and managed them, and that's who I used. That's the agent I used was with that company. Anyways, after a few months, I realized that I wanted to try something different, and I was getting all this information about EXP. I was following Ricky Carruth. And so, I had conversations with Ricky Carruth. I reached out to him, and he talked me into it, and I joined EXP. So I spent December, January, February just nose to the stone, just grinding away, trying to figure out how this real estate gig worked. And I learned everything I could about all the CRMs, and I learned everything I could about doing this and doing that, and I tried to do them. But as most agents learn along the way, typically most agents will do what it takes 1 or 2 times, and then they give up.
Sure.
And that's probably not too much different as far as your side of things go.
Right.
When
you
you
do
get
the
new
right
people.
things, and then you
You
give
do the right things, and you're like, "Whoa, this isn't working."
feet from gold.
You expect huge results.
And yeah, it's the first time you do it, right? I'm gonna call somebody. Oh, wait, it didn't work. Well, you got to call them 15 times. Like that's the norm.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, right? And so I got to the point where I'm like, okay, it's been 4 months, and I'm getting nowhere. I'm gonna seek out a team.
Gotcha.
So I sought out a team. I interviewed a few different teams, and I liked what Lynn brought to the table. So that's where I went. And within 6 months from then, I things were starting to flow. And in my first year, which is the last 6 months of my first year, I closed 13 deals, and things were rolling from there.
Nice.
So I mean, what I recommend to all new agents, I don't care what brokerage you're with, a team. I don't care. Throw the splits out the window and go learn how to be a real estate agent. Because if you don't learn it, you're just, 80% fail rate, right?
Yeah. Oh, I remember that sitting my Code of Ethics first one, Arlington Heights, Illinois. You know where that's at.
Yep.
And this big room of people, all these brand new agents, and the person who's instructing us is going, all right, look to the right, look to the left.
Oh, jeez.
And he's like, only one of you is going to be here in 6 months.
Oh.
And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I just got my license. I'm like, did I just spend all this time getting into a business that has a high, massive turnover rate?
You did.
I did. And I didn't realize it luckily I didn't realize it until that moment. But I was like, all right, well, I'm already committed. So here we go.
Yeah, and the moral of the story is if anybody puts in the effort and the time, you will be a part of that success rate.
Right.
But most people give up before that point happens.
And to your point about a team, 0% of zero.
Yeah,
100% of nothing
I
is
tell
nothing.
I tell this to people all the time. 100% of zero is still zero.
Zero.
So don't worry about the split.
What
Yeah.
what would you guys say is an advantage of being with EXP over somewhere else, or what made you? Maybe this is for you, Len. What drove you to EXP?
So it's actually interesting, and I hope people appreciate this. I was with Keller Williams before, and Keller Williams, phenomenal company, coaching, training. I learned a ton working there.
Gotcha.
And I learned, probably the biggest thing I learned from that company was what I was capable of.
Okay.
And I had coaching prior with Mike Ferry and some of these other companies, and they use the same stuff, right? Everybody's got access to the same information. Nobody really has like the secret recipe. It's all out there. Everything is out there. And so at a certain point in time, and I don't remember the year, I'm trying to remember the year, but they start talking about this concept of the expansion model inside of Keller Williams. And so the idea is that you can set your team up in Phoenix and then branch out in Chicago, New York. You can be nationwide. And I originally had my license in Illinois. I let it lapse as I picked up my license here, thinking, well, I can still collect referrals and do stuff there, but I had basically shut down my business in Chicago because I didn't live there anymore.
Okay.
And so the expansion model reopened my eyes to the concept that, no, you don't necessarily have to do that. So I actually flew back out and took my test and reactivated my license. Right. So I'm active
That's a
in.
huge benefit of EXP.
Yeah.
And so.
So Keller, not to cut you off, it wouldn't allow, you couldn't do
No,
that.
I was.
Oh, you were, okay,
so
gotcha.
they built that model for a lot of people. They advertised it better because Glenn Sanford actually was an expansion agent inside of EXP. That's what EXP was built for, was because he was in multiple locations as well. So they didn't invent it. It's just they had a bigger megaphone related to it. And so I had a split and a cap in Chicago. The cap in Chicago was $25,000. The split here was $18,000. And I had a cap here, and I had office fees here, and I had office fees here. And I've got Jeff in Chicago, who was my first client back in 2003, who's now, he runs our Chicago area. And so he's on a split with the office.
Clients turned realtor.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Because I did my follow-up. I kept in touch with my client. And he's like, hey, how do you like real estate? Another story. But so here he is in Chicago as an agent on the team, and he's got a full split and cap with that Keller Williams office in Chicago. But then we've got, Tim here locally, and he's on a team split because he's local.
Right.
And I always was trying to figure out a way to do that. And one day I opened up just real estate article and talking about EXP, and this really big team that I respected from Keller Williams had moved over to EXP, and I'm like, these guys are nuts. Like, what are they thinking? And I'm reading through it, and all of a sudden they said, yeah, the biggest benefit of EXP is that we had one office fee, and then everybody, no matter where they are in the country, is on the exact same split.
Yeah,
and I was like,
that
everybody's
makes sense.
equal. And so that immediately
Turned you
onto it. So that was one of the biggest benefits for me. And then everything else I found out afterwards with rev share, with stock, and all that other stuff was just bonus.
Yeah, see, for me, the biggest benefit is the collaboration.
Yeah.
I mean, and I haven't been a bunch of other places, but I just can't imagine being able to reach out to top producers and get the kind of response that you get here. And part of that reason is because we all want to see each other succeed at EXP,
Right.
because we all are owners in the company.
Yeah, we're all
Right?
shareholders.
So we want to see each other succeed. So like literally at EXP, the person that brings you in is called your sponsor.
Okay.
And I can reach out to my sponsor, Ricky Caruth, who was the top real estate agent in Alabama for years. He sold 100 homes every year. So
at a decent price point.
yeah,
Too, so,
and I mean,
yeah.
I can reach out to him. He gives me so much stuff to help me in my career.
Right.
So you have that group, that's your team, but you can really reach out to anybody at EXP. We have our own workplace,
Nice.
which gives you the ability to have workplace chats with any agent in EXP. So you can seek out a top producer, ask what they're doing. They will share that with you. And now you can implement it.
And they're teaching classes online and constantly. I can log in every day and could learn from somebody.
But I mean,
Yeah.
we'll do a whole episode on this at some point.
Well, that's a good segue. Let's wrap this up, but let's give some of the people listening what can we expect from this show in the future. I'll start first. I mean, I'm going to share current things that are happening in the lending realm. Give tips about how to overcome certain challenges in the lending realm.
Which is important.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll go into credit, it'll go into income, it'll go into loan programs, anything new and fresh that's relevant. I'll also talk about kind of projections in lending, where I think where everyone wants to know probably where rates are going to go.
Yeah.
So that'll be a big topic as well. So it'll be fresh from the lending side every show. It'll be relevant, and it'll be stuff that'll also help with realtors.
Awesome.
What do you guys expect?
Well, the great thing about our business is no two transactions are alike.
Well,
And so, like Jason alluded to earlier, it's like, after doing this for 20 years, I've seen a lot. And so I have solutions for different problems that come our way because I've seen it before. And so I think that what I'm looking forward to is as we continue to have these conversations is we'll be able to bring yesterday's story and say, here's how we dealt with this issue in today's market. Because everything about real estate is hyper local and it is market of the moment. Like, what are we doing right now to overcome these obstacles? And pricing strategies, how to get that listing sold that's been sitting there for a while. Like, what are some ways that you can do it? Just even if it's just little tips and tricks, technology that could help you out a little bit. We use a lot of technology that helps us out. So while we've been sitting here, we've been talking to our clients because we have systems in place that allow them to be able to ask questions, get responses. We've got a transaction coordinator behind the scenes who's helping us make sure that our paperwork is going through.
Nice.
There's not drop balls happening because we're sitting here for 20 minutes.
Right.
We're not ignoring people. Things are happening, so we can talk about some of that stuff and how to build a team if that's something that somebody's looking to do.
And I think what you said about your experiences watching this, it's things that you're saying about things that you're fixing. Realtors can pick up on that and might help them.
For sure.
Yeah.
With the current transaction, they might listen to this and like, oh, Len said that. Why don't I apply that to my deal?
Yeah. A couple days ago, I had an agent up, a mentee. So that's another thing I liked about EXP is we can mentor people.
Nice.
And so I have a mentee who's up in the Payson area, and she's like, yeah, the buyer wants out. We're going to kill the deal. And I was like, throw a Hail Mary. She goes, what? I'm like, just throw this out here.
Who cares, right?
I'm like, he's going to sign the cancellation. I'm like, ask him what price he absolutely has to have on that house. Like, if I could get you this price, what would you take on it? Because the house needed all sorts of work after the inspection. And the seller's like, oh, no, I'll do all the work myself. And he's like, no, I need this done professionally or I need a reduction. So he's like, I'm out.
Right.
I'm like, just throw a Hail Mary. She texts me back. She goes, he wanted $50,000 price reduction. He got it. We're still closing. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And she's, so like.
And it just took some experience.
Yeah.
Right. Because all she's seeing is her first transaction is, oh man,
Falling apart.
it's falling apart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he wants the house. Ask him what's the bottom line. And I've done it before. Sometimes it's fallen in my face or blown up in my face.
What did it hurt though?
Hurt nothing. She had the cancellation signed.
Gotcha. So from the real estate plus appraisal side, what topics or stuff do you think we benefit from?
So I'll be on the real estate side of things. I'll be able to bring a lot of the same stuff that Len just talked about, but also just and talking about how we can help agents. How we can. I mean, that's our goal here is to help everyone succeed. I don't care what brokerage you're with. I mean, we're going to share our secrets to the business that we have, in hopes of helping other agents. There's plenty of business for everybody.
Yeah.
On the appraisal side of things. I mean, I think that's the other side of things where I can bring, you can bring the lending side, you can bring a lot of the agent side. I can touch on the agent side, but I can bring the appraisal side.
Right.
And they all mesh together perfectly because all three of them are necessary in a transaction.
And I would say if you're an agent who doesn't really necessarily think that having a relationship or at least knowledge of the appraisal side is not super important, I can absolutely attest to not only my business, but the team's business has absolutely improved and increased by having Jason as a part of the team, by him being able to share that knowledge, because it goes back to that problem solving. Now you have another tool in your tool belt to say, well, what if we approach it from this perspective? And so I would say tune in definitely for some additional appraisal tips and tricks and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we get a lot of, from the team members, a lot of, well, what do I tell them? Like, what should we list at? And I mean, and that's where I can jump in. I mean, I'm sure it would be fine without me there, but I mean, it's just another aspect that we can bring to
It's
it.
also got to give an extra layer of confidence too.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
Coming from someone who's been appraising homes for 20 plus years, that agent's got to feel super, super confident. with
Yeah.
the numbers.
Oh,
And when I teach these classes to the other agents too, that's one of the things that I'm trying to do is to bridge the gap between agents and appraisers. I say it in every class that I teach. Can't we all just get along, right? Like you don't have to hate the appraiser. He has a job to do. His client is the lender.
Right.
That's his client. It's not the buyer. It's not the seller. His job isn't to make everybody happy. His job is to make sure that the loan is not overextended. So if I can teach agents this and we can all be on the same page, I can teach you how to file a reconsideration of value. I can, there's so many different aspects we can touch on that we will touch on.
Yeah.
Just a quick plug too. I believe January 24th, you're teaching a class.
Yes,
Correct? So
24th.
maybe
Yep.
we can leave that on the notes or
Yeah.
something.
We'll find a way to add a link.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Well, anything else you want to end with, guys? I mean, this was, I think, a great introduction. Let everyone kind of know our experiences. We've got a wealth of knowledge here. I mean, between us, 60 years.
It's another way of
almost.
saying
It's
we're
over
old.
60 years,
right? Yeah.
It's another way of saying we're a bunch of old guys.
Yeah. So, I look forward to doing this. I did a show for a long time, sharing knowledge on the radio. So it's good getting this message out, and it's good to, inform people. Give them power, right?
Feels
So,
good. I'm jacked up.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
All right.
Signing off.
All right, thanks
Real
everyone.
estate RT. See ya.